Potters, this video is going to be about throwing lids. Now, there's lots of options to throwing lids. So I made these little flashcards that I'm going to show you the type of pot that goes with the type of lid to better illustrate what will be happening in the videos. Really clean that up like so. So this area is where... Okay, so for this pot, I'm just doing kind of a standard cylinder, but as I'm pulling the walls, I am keeping the rim of the pot a little bit thicker so that you have more room to split your rim. So I'm kind of stopping about right there, so I have a pretty decent sized rim. Now, let me just point out, this is just a typical cylinder. You could make a really short cylinder for a covered pot, so it'd be like kind of this shape. I want to see how many different types of lidded forms you guys can come up with these techniques. So I'm just going to clean this off. And I want to make sure that my fingers are wet. I'm going to hold it right here. I'm stabilizing my elbows. And then I just take my finger and I'm going to push down on the inside of the rim. These two fingers are supporting this wall, because if I just pushed, it would go off center. So this hand's very stable. So Potters, I just kind of finished that off with a metal rib. And then of course, don't forget your undercut. All right, so the first lid I'm gonna show you to go on that split rimmed pot is gonna be like a flat lid with a handle or like a knob. But this is thrown upside down. So the knob is actually gonna be here and then the flatness is gonna be here. What I've done is I've kind of stretched out my centered piece of clay, measuring it. So I'm not too far off of where I need to be. And I don't recommend having anything totally flat thrown on the wheel. I will just make this curved a tiny bit, just so it doesn't collapse. You can also take a rib, like so. And then I'm going to take a finger and slowly bring that finger in. Like so. When I cut this off, down here will be where the knob is. And I'm gonna take this part and I'm gonna throw, coming out. I'm keeping a little bit of a curve to it right now because otherwise it would collapse as I'm throwing it. So I'm gonna measure it. Now, the nice thing about lids is if they get too big, you can just cut that off and keep going. Because I do want to flatten this out more, so it's the flat style rim, flat style lid. It's a lot of measuring involved. I also recommend throwing a couple lids for each pot, just so you can pick the one that fits the best. I'm just kind of smoothing it out, going over those edges. Looks like I need to come in a tiny bit. I'm going to take a little bit more off. It's feeling a little thick to me, so I just want to take a little bit off, stretch that clay out. There we go. That looks like a pretty good fit. Some finishing touches. You know, you don't want to apply any pressure here because there's nothing underneath here. So I'm going to support the bottom, use my rib, clean that up. And then of course, anytime you mess with it, you're going to want to measure it again. So then just like cutting, I'm going to show you what this looks like from the side. So this is what this lid looks like from the side. So you could even push this in a little bit more, but I will probably just try to trim that off. And then this little area right here is where I'm going to trim the knob. You could leave a bigger area here so you could trim a taller knob or a bigger knob, but this is the size I'm going with for this pot. So this is the flat one. You can see better here that it's not completely flat, but it's pretty close. If it was completely flat, I feel like it's most likely that this would just relax down. So I'm going to cut this off just like you'd cut off a cup or anything else off a hump. I'm making that indent so my wire tool knows where to go. And then taking the wire tool, putting it in that indent, spinning and pulling. And I like to just put the lids that I'm making for the pot right there on the bat so that they don't get mixed up. So on to the next one. Like I said, I'm gonna make 4 different lids for this one pot. Okay, so I'm going to show you the next one, which is very similar to the last one, except it's a domed top. So I'm just gonna get a little bit of clay off of here, similar to how you make a cup. Pushing that in on the bottom. And it's just like a bowl. You can make this bowl as shallow or as steep as you want it. I think that's the cool thing about these lids is like there's just so many components that you can completely change to get such different pots. So I'm going to stop about right there, check my measurement. It's a little big, so I'm just going to kind of bring it in a smidge. Smidge more. And you'll see when we're done here how these different lids really change the pot. And you guys can do fun things like Could do some surprises on the inside there. Looks like a little flower. Again, every time you do something to it, make sure that you remeasure it. Looks pretty good. I'm gonna do my cut underneath here, just like you do with the cup. Get my wire tool. I'll take this one off. So there is the domed. This will be trimmed out to be the knob. All right, here we go. So the third style I'm gonna show you is very similar to how the other ones were done. Get this situation going on here. Again, I'm gonna try to get this hump spread out a bit. I'm gonna put my center hole in. I'm gonna pull back. These all look kind of similar when I'm throwing them, but you will see how different they are once they're on the pots. So, a little bit bigger than what I need it. Gonna bring that wall in, throw that wall up. I like to make these, well, it depends on your pot, but this is kind of angled in a little bit. Let's see what our measurement's like. So close. Okay. And then same as the other ones underneath. I'm going to push that clay in. Okay, this next one I'm so super excited about. Me too. It's pretty cool. Just wait. I just learned this technique. So this is the only one that is thrown right side up. And I'm gonna flatten this piece of clay down to the size that I need it to be. It is important that you get the outside of this piece of clay to be very close to the actual size that you need. So, put a hole and go straight down to your bat. You're gonna hook your fingers like this and you're gonna pull back so you're actually making a hollow form. So my fingers are ending up, inside fingers right here. I just wanna check this, see how much. I'm gonna have to bring that in a little bit. So then, you're gonna pull that wall while you're also trying to keep this pretty small here. This is tough because I need to make this smaller, but if I push it in too much, it's just gonna pop right off the bat. So let's hope that that's enough right there. Now I'm gonna finish up this part down here. So get the shape that I want. gonna start choking here. This, we're gonna make the knob. So this allows you to make a hollow knob. I love these because I feel like you can just make these like super cool, crazy knobs. Remember, when you choke, you do need to go back over it with your fingers. Now I'm gonna work on closing this knob up. Now I see people when they're choking, a lot of times they'll just use like a couple fingers like this. What you really want to do is try to get as many points touching your clay as possible. Also, when I'm choking something, I like to leave a little bit of a neck here. The great thing about closing this is that then you trap air in there, a little off center, and you can play around with your rib without it collapsing. I'm gonna go with this wiggle. Clean up that side. And there you go. You have this super fun lid with a cool hollow knob on it. So this is one of the lids for the split rimmed pot. I wish I would have left a little bit more clay here to make a bigger knob, but I'll make this work. What you definitely need to do though is you need to have some type of like undercut here so that when you lift, so that you can grasp the knob to lift up the lid. You don't ever want it to angle out this way because then it'll just slip out of your hand. So here's what that looks like. All right, this one I have a little bit more to work with. This is also for the split rimmed pot. Again, doing that little undercut here, angling it in. All right, so here's our finished products. This first one is for the split rim pot, okay? And we have our flat lid up first. I just want you to see how it changes, the pot changes according to the lid. So that's that first one. Here's the domed, totally a different look. And then here's this one, the hollow knob. And then this last one. So, one pot, 4 different lids, totally different looks.